Hi, my name's Gabi from Living Entertainment, and today we're going to take a look at the Mission 770 stand mount speakers. When I first saw these speakers announced, I was really excited. It's no secret that at Living Entertainment we love the look of vintage hi-fi setups. And when I saw this, hark back to a 1970s design being brought back from the dead, I immediately thought to myself, I need to get a pair of these and I need to have a listen. So thank you to Mission Australia, not the charity, Mission Speakers Australia, for sending over some Mission 770s for us to have a listen to. These were brand new, and I mean brand spanking new, but I have to say, very enjoyable. So, first impressions. To begin with, I set up the stands, and if you're not a fan of IKEA, buyer beware. No, it's actually quite simple. So in my day-to-day life, I actually live with the Wharfedale Lintons, so naturally I'm going to make a comparison between the Mission 770s and the Wharfedale Lintons. Obviously, aesthetically, it's kind of a similar vibe, that 70s big box loudspeaker, stand mount speaker. It does lend itself to comparison. The look, the size, the finish of the Mission 770s is actually quite different in person. First impressions out of the box, the finish of the 770s is beautiful. It's really well done. You can tell these are made in the UK by hand. The finish is immaculate. You look at all of the details where the materials meet each other and they're just so precise and so refined. That kind of level of detail you expect out of manufacturing in the UK. The feel, the look of the veneer is beautiful. I have the walnut versions here, and I was really impressed with the look of the speakers. Contrasting to that, I actually really like the white face of these speakers. While the glaringly huge Mission 770 plastered across the front of the speaker might not be to everybody's taste,
Mission 770.
It does hark back to the original 1970s versions of these speakers. So in that way, I actually do appreciate that. For my own living room, although the drivers are beautiful, I think I actually do like the look of them with the grills on. It just matches in with all of my black componentry better. I was really impressed with how solid the stands are once they're assembled and how accurate the placement of the speakers is on those stands, how clean the line is. One thing that Mission Speakers Australia forgot to send me were the spike shoes. So I just used some Blue Horizons in this case, but they worked well together anyway. So up top, the Mission 770 is sporting a 28mm microfiber soft dome tweeter. And taking care of the mid and bass tones, you have a 20cm polypropylene driver. The speakers will play at 8 ohms impedance and can go down to 6 ohms. So, question on everyone's lips, how do they actually sound? When I first got these out of the box, I plugged them straight into my PrimaLuna Evo 200 integrated amplifier. The source I chose was actually some records, and I have to say I found myself checking to see if I had a lot of dust on the stylus, because the tone I was hearing out of the tweeter straight out of the box was really sort of raspy. But I can confirm that after playing them in for a couple of hours, that tone completely changed. So in order for me to listen to these speakers in sort of a neutral kind of setting, I just used the Blue Sound node as my source, making sure I was listening to MQA tracks. And from there, I was able to listen to the speaker in all of its details. Straight out of the gates, and I think a few reviewers have actually said this, there is a distinct clarity in these speakers. You actually don't need to run them in for that long for you to get a sense of how these speakers are going to sound in your system. With that clarity, you can hear that each part of the speaker is doing its job. So you're not hearing much bleed through from the trebles to the mids to the bass. Everything is playing at the level that it needs to, but it's not harsh in that way. It's still giving you a clarity in the music, but there's still cohesion. It's not like the treble is sitting way out in space and here's the bass down here. It is actually playing really nicely together. When listening to female vocals, you will hear every single whisper. The enunciation in the words is very exacting, which, to some listeners might be jarring, but for the critically minded, this is a really beautiful sounding speaker. The bass is clean and it pushes well into the room. And overall, the sound is uncluttered. I played around with the placement of these speakers when I first got them here, and I can tell you that placing them a little bit further away from the wall and towing them in slightly to wherever your listening direction is will give you a better soundstage and definitely a much more natural sounding performance. So from there, I then plugged the speakers into my Hegel H120 integrated amplifier just to compare to a solid state amplifier. And I was actually surprised, well, not so much surprised, but the neutrality of the H120 actually helped to ease the speakers a little bit more with that crispness that they have on the PrimaLuna. To me, the sound was more enjoyable as far as a comparison. If I had to pick one or two, I would actually go with the Hegel H120 with these speakers, just because it toned down a little bit of the sibilance I was hearing in some of the top end notes of female vocals on the PrimaLuna. As far as the bass, you've got that silky bass that is punching well into the room, and the sound was more well-rounded. For me, I do like a more mellow sound, so the Hegel brought down the speakers just a touch and made a really nice balanced performance. So I kind of touched on before, but I'll say it again. With these speakers being a vintage hark back to an original design, naturally they're going to be compared to things like the JBL L100 Classics and the Wharfedale Lintons. But I actually think a better comparison would be the PMC 2522Is. And the reason for that is they share a similar tonal detail. The Wharfedales are very easy listening, very warm, I hate that word, sorry, warm, very smooth and an easy listen for your everyday. The Mission 770s have a very articulate sound. The performance is very insightful. So if you're a music lover, you will actually really enjoy listening to these speakers because they allow you to hear that definition that I mentioned earlier between the instruments, the trebles, the mids, the bass. They're all quite separated out. So if you've got a lot of instruments playing in a piece of music at one time, you will be able to hear the detail in all of those levels of the music. The Mission 770 are now available in Australia, and you can purchase them via the link in our description below. Finishes available are black and walnut, and they ship with the stands and the spike feet. If you've got any more questions about these speakers, you can shoot us a message on the website. Thank you so much for your time, and hit the like and subscribe and all that good stuff.